Guys, can you quickly join? So kindly be in the online, sir. Guys, can you quickly join in? Hello? Sir, we will wait for 3 more minutes for the students and then we can start the session, sir.
Okay, okay, no problem.
Aditya, you can ask others to quickly join in. We can start the session. Aditya, have you joined?
Yes, ma'am. I'm just doing some editing for it. Just wait.
Okay, fine. Aditya, we can start our session. Aditya,
Yes, ma'am.
yeah, you can switch on your video and then start the session if you can.
Just a second, ma'am. Hello, ma'am. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, ma'am. Can I present it?
Yes, you can.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. For gathered here for looking at our guest lecture for cultural anthropology in the built environment by Dr. CHELLA PERUMAL, MA, MCA, PhD, Anthropology, Professor Pondicherry University. To avoid inconvenience for all of us, I request all of you the participation to keep your mics and videos switched off through the presentation. We are grateful to our esteemed management, SRMC, our beloved Dean Professor, A.R. Uma Ramanathan, and HOD Professor, Architect Ramesh. Our overall event coordinator, Professor Vijayashree Ma'am, Mr. Architecture Arjuna Manju Arjunan, and our fellow faculty members and the students. Welcome today for the lecture and advanced photographical techniques. Myself, B. Aditya, the student coordinator of the day. I request our beloved Professor Manju Arjunan Ma'am to give a welcome address.
Thank you, Aditya. Uh, I welcome Dr. A. Chellaparamal, MAMS and PhD in Anthropology from Pondicherry University for the webinar on cultural anthropology in built environment. Sir has completed his MA in Anthropology in the University of Madras and PhD from University of Madras, and he has overall 33 years of experience in the PG teaching alone. And Sir has written 50 articles and 4 books and conference proceedings of 69 and seminars of 80, and number of PhDs like he is currently guiding is more than 10. And he worked as a Dean of Arts and Science Xavier College from the year 2002 to 2004, and as a director and head in the Center for South Asian Studies, UNESCO, Manjit Singh Institute for South Asia Regional Cooperative, Pondicherry University in the year June 2013 to 2015, and he has worked as a principal in Pondicherry University Community College in the year of 2016 to 2017, and he has got academic contributions and distinctions in Fulbright Visiting Scholar Award from USA and UGC Research Award and St. Xavier's Research Award, Best Book Award by NCBH Chennai, an International Associate Member of Finnish Academy of Science, and he is a Visiting Associate in IAS Shimla, Board of Studies Member in Mysore University, and District Committee Member of SC and ST for various districts in Tamil Nadu. Along with that, Sir has received the State Kalaimamani Award for the extensive research of his folk arts, and he has contributed throughout his life for the research of folk, the tribal people and the settlements and the culture of it. So we welcome you, and also we are very grateful to our management, chairman, co-chairman, director, and chief director, and our dean, Professor Uma Ramanathan, and our VP admin, Architect Lokesh, and our HOD Ramesh. On behalf of SEED, we welcome you for the guest lecture on cultural anthropology in built environment, sir. Thank you.
Very good afternoon to you all.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
Shall I start? Or?
Yes, sir, you can start.
Very good afternoon to you all. Thank you, Madam Manju, for nice introduction and the opportunity you have given for this talk. I am very happy to share some of my views on the topic given to me to the students of SRM Institute. Um, as it is known, the topic given to me is the anthropology of built environment, that is, cultural anthropology of built environment or built structures, or even you can call it as built forms. And though anthropology, there are four major branches. Mostly cultural anthropology is very much concerned with this kind of artifacts or monuments or structures, visible structures, and all the paraphernalia related to the life. And so I will be sharing some of the views on the uh, anthropological approaches towards the built structures, because as architecture as a field of study, architecture deals with the built structures thoroughly. The materials involved, or the way in which it is built, or its aesthetics, its construction matters, all these things. Okay, so architecture is that field, whereas anthropology is really little different. It is not mostly, it is not dealing with the materials associated with the structures. It is not with the how they are doing the structure, all these things. Rather, it is mostly dealt with the people who are using that structure, or people who will be living in the structure. So which means the human aspect of the buildings, or human aspects of the built environment will be dealt by the anthropologists, whereas that non-human aspect, material aspects are dealt with the architecture. But you have to have both together. That is the reason why nowadays you can't have the compartmentalization of understanding of anything. If you have the clear inclination of combining both anthropology and architecture together, you understand the phenomenon much more deeper. So that only, it is basically, as I said, anthropology is the study of human beings, whereas architecture is the study of designing and making built forms. The design, how it is designed, how it is made, all these things. But then what would be the combination of these two? As just now told, anthropology is the study of human beings, architecture is the study of designing and making built forms. Then anthropological study of architecture should essentially mean the study of humans living inside the built forms, because after all, it is human beings are using, after all, it is human beings are making use of it, all these things. So that is the reason why it is felt, or it is expected, that we have to have the both together. That is interdisciplinary approach of the built structures or built environment is definitely needed. Otherwise, it will be partial. So anthropology deals with the human behavior and studying the variations in the behavior concerning the changes in their surroundings. This is the basic definition. So anthropology is basically deals with the human behavior and studying the variations of the behavior, because human beings' behavior is not uniform. They behave differently, different during different times, in different contexts, even different places. Though human beings you have throughout the world, the behavior of the people are not one and the same. The people's behavior in the Arctic region is different. The people's behavior in the tropical regions are different. But both are dealt by anthropology. And not only the climate, the behavior related to the climate, and that behavior leads to the kind of materials they make. The behavior leads to the kind of dwellings they make. The behavior leads to the kind of housing. All these things are very much matter, all are interlinked. So to keep this in your mind, we have to understand the architecture. The architecture designers are bound to take into consideration human behaviors before designing spaces for them. See, it is very interesting. The anthropology also deals with the behavior of the people. That behavior of the people, anthropologists study once the structures are made. But architecture, the field of architecture, or an architect should consider the behavior well in advance, or study the behavior well in advance, so as to design any particular building or particular structure. That is very interesting. Anthropology studies the influence of the structure on the behavior, or impact of the structure on the behavior, or vice versa. But the particular, why is that particular structure is to be built, how the particular design is to be utilized, it is the concern of the architect. See, normally architects are consulted by the people, and they will be telling their needs, their capacities, their resources. Accordingly, they have to design. Okay, so it is much more the prior. Imaginatively, if you think a structure, there is a structure, but the pre activities of the structure are the domain of the architects, whereas the post activities that are going on in the structure by the people, or the domain of the anthropology. So, but both are related, both are to be compared. How both the domains are related to each other is to be studied. How the study of human behavior is crucial in designing meaningful spaces that enhances human responses. See, what do you mean by built environment? Because everywhere there is a space in nature. Once human involvement is there, human interference is there, then it becomes the built environment, built structure. As long as there is no human involvement, human interference, it is nature. See, there are mountains, rivers, or deserts. They are not built environment, they are natural environment. But in any particular place, any particular space, if human beings enters and does something, construct a wall, or construct a building, then the space is used, space is created, new space, utilization space is being created. That is very important. But I tell you, only for the anthropologists, this built environment studies of the built environment is the new phenomenon. But architects, for even from the 19th century, many pioneers of in the field of architecture, they are looking into this field. Especially two important names I want to tell. I do not want to elaborate their contribution, but you should remember two important names. One is Gottfried Semper, and another one is Eugene Emmanuel Violet Leduc. These two are the pioneers in the 19th century itself, looking into the aspects of the built environment from the point of view of anthropology. They are not hardcore anthropologists. They are architects, but their viewpoint, their orientation, their theories, their approach was anthropological. And it has been realized by the anthropology only recently, but the architecture field is already realized all those things. And many times, the built structures are not only used for aesthetic purpose. no, aesthetic things, and in they are the what to say, the evidences of the history, not only of the present structures, even archaeologically, to go back to the prehistoric times, you reconstruct the past on the basis of the material evidences. What the kind you would have recently heard about the recent excavations that are going on in various places, like in Tamil Nadu, Kerala, and other places. How those these are all the built spaces used by the prehistoric people, and from that we could understand the type of living, the kind of production, the kind of relationship. Everything is known on the basis of the material evidences. Otherwise, there are, you don't have people to say what happened 1,000 years ago. There you can only depend upon the material structures, built structures, whether it is in full form or broken form, whatever it is, you have to get out of it, and you try to know about that. And there are interestingly, there are so many theories of anthropology of built environment. Those things and all, we don't have time to elaborate. But what to know in this presentation, you should know this field is very fertile, very interesting. I do not know about India, but in the West, if you are, you get a lot of opportunity for job as well as research, not just as a hardcore architecture man. If you are an architect, it is less likely you to get opportunities. But if you say that I am an anthropological architect, or an architect with anthropological bent of mind, you have plenty of opportunities both in research and job. You can test it on by website and other things. So that is I want to mention here. And there are so many theories of buildings and monuments. They are, most of them are with the anthropological base only, because many theories explain a rational logic of structure in even Gothic buildings, and it has also to be similar to that of the internal organization of the human body. See, I tell you, many structures in the world were not simply created by the imagination of the architect. Remember, this is one of the very important point. Huge structures, huge monuments are not the pure. It is not been built or created or designed, not just by the imagination of creative potential of the architect. Many times it is the he creates, an architect creates a design or makes a design on the basis of certain things which are already existing. What already existing means, most of the buildings in the world, or many people say it is it is parallel to the human body nature, human body. Even the high rise buildings and all, they have some kind of human body. Only with that symmetrical thing only they could create bigger buildings, whether it is high rise building, whether it is in the vertical condition or in the horizontal condition. If you carefully look into that, there will be some kind of parallel between the human body and the built structures. Some people are highlighting that, and it is many a times it is like that. Many a times it is not just here and there, but some may reject this theory also. But first of all, you have to test it. Only then you can consider this thing. Instead of calling it as a mere parallel of the structure in the human body, some people say it is just a crossover of this and that. So you keep that in your mind, With that, keep that in your mind. You have to also understand what do you mean by the built environment. Because built environment, it refers to the human-made surroundings. Built environment refers to the human-made surroundings that provide the setting for human activity. Because structures are not just mere structures to view, mere structures to exclaim, mere structures to enjoy, or mere structures to talk about it. That structures in it people have to live, whether it is a palace or this or whatever it is. Though certain structures are created to exhibit something, that also to be viewed. And many times some structures have been created not for the utilitarian value. Not all are for utilitarian value. Some are purely to designate, to purely to convey something, to convey prestige, to convey authority, to convey aesthetics, or to convey the symbolism, or to convey the patriotism, or to convey spirituality. All these things. See, why is that? Everywhere temples are huge. Why is that temples are having long cobras and other things? There is a reason for that. There is reason for that. Because definitely it is to be it is different from that of the human. It should be different from that of the human dwelling. See, again, if you go and see the gods, though the gods are having anthropomorphic forms. Anthropomorphic form means gods look like human beings only, but it is not mere human being. The kind of weapons the gods have, the kind of the facial expression, the kind of the stature and all, no, it is fearful. Okay, so to make the difference between human and divine. So all these things are matter. That's the reason why, I say built environment refers to the human-made surroundings that provide the setting for human activity. And that human activity settings, it ranges in scale from buildings, parks, green space to neighborhoods and cities that can often include their supporting infrastructure such as water supply, energy networks. Again, when I say built environment, don't it is not just confined to houses, buildings and monuments alone. You should see in a broader spectrum also. Even see you see the city, whole city, big city. The kind of whole city is the built environment by the constant, continuous, enormous human activity. And that is also to be viewed. And not only the structures, and also the some of the supporting infrastructure also should be viewed. Nowadays, whether any city development, urban development, or even village development, it should have the holistic perspective. If you without the holistic perspective, it will be harmful for, not only harmful to the surroundings. So there should be a congenial, there should be a complementarity, there should be a complementarity of relationship in making the architect. If the architect or if the architecture is smooth or complementary, it will lead to the smoother life. In the smoother life in the sense, in utilizing the resources properly. Otherwise, if something wrong with the architecture, or if there is a imbalance architectural structures, there is it directly leads to the hierarchy, directly leads to the what to say, the imbalance of the distribution of the resources, which naturally lead to the so many other complications. And see, you can also use some other terms also for built environment. You can call it as built world or man-made environment, whatever you feel like you can use. And I tell you, the anthropologists are very much interested in the built environment of the non-literate societies. tribal societies. Somehow or other, anthropologists, though anthropology is not only the study of so-called tribal or primitive people, somehow or other anthropologists are fascinated, or I won't say obsessed, but they are very much fascinated for the understanding of the tribal societies, especially when they study the tribal communities or the non-literate societies. They pay attention to the shelters the communities construct and occupy, and why there are differences in the built forms. It is very, very, very interesting. Now let me give you some of the interesting examples, case studies. You would appreciate that. See, I want to give you examples of differences in built forms, even in the same kind of more or less similar kind of climatic condition, uh, purely on the basis of the culture, or purely on the basis of the way of living. Let me give you some examples. Many of you would have known, or even if you have not known, you can try to know. See, there is Nilgiris mountains in Tamil Nadu. Many of you would have known about this. Ooty. Many of you would have visited Ooty. Ooty is situated in the Nilgiri hills. That Nilgiri is known for having different tribal communities. The tribal communities are very less in population, but they live in the Nilgiri mountains, throughout the mountains. They have about there are so many hillocks constitute Nilgiris. So in the high peak, high altitude, you have the Toda community, and little lesser altitude, you have the Kota community, and much again lesser altitude, you have the Yurula community, Kurumba community, or Katunaikan, which means about 5-6 tribal communities. They live throughout that hill ranges, different hillocks, different hillocks. But if you carefully analyze and see their housing patterns, shelter patterns, there is enormous difference. The Toda houses are different in shape, or Kota houses different in shape and structure. Why is that? Sometimes materials are same materials are used, but the house patterns, residential patterns, settlement patterns are different. See, let me first give you example. Toda, they are some about total population is around 1,000, but all the 1,000 people do not live in one single settlement. They live 5 families in this hillock, another 5-6 families, another hillock, another 5-6 families, another hillock. So they spread throughout Nilgiris, but no settlement is having more than 10 houses. So very less. Why is the, and all the houses are conical in shape. Sorry, the what to say, oval in shape, and their temple is conical in shape. And each settlement, I say just 5-6 houses only, but there is a vast space around their houses, vast space. The reason for having that vast spaces around their houses, because they were traditionally cattle herders. They were traditionally having the cattle. So they need vast space for grazing their cattle. So if they all live in the same place, all hundreds of cattle, there will be competition of space. So naturally, culturally, they have been designed and living in different places, using vast space appropriately. So this is linked, their settlement pattern is linked with that of the culture. That is their relations of production. Their traditional occupation makes them to have this kind of housing pattern. It is interesting. Then I come to the very next another tribe. If not all the tribes, let me Yeah, you are showing it very interesting. So I'm happy that this is house pattern,
Yes, sir.
and very good. Yeah. See the oval shaped houses, and now the houses are nowadays in the same shape, but now they are using some concrete materials. Earlier they were using the natural fibers and other thing, whatever they get it. And now, if possible, is it possible to show me the quota residential pattern? There is a vast difference between quota and toda, but the population is more or less same. Why is that about 1,000 people total live in about 100 different settlements, but same 1,000 population quota people live in only some 7 settlements only? Once again, repeat, the population is more or less same, 1,000 or 1,200, but total live in 100 different places in the Nilgiris. But the same 1,000 people quota live only in 7 settlements. The reason, again, it is because of the traditional occupation. Toda's occupation, they are traditionally craftspeople or potters, pottery and crafts. Their traditional occupation. They do not graze cattle, so they need the house in such a way. They need the cooperation of the fellow people. So their houses are arranged in row, not individual houses, not no vast space around the houses. Only the houses are in row. In this row, the reason is the for pottery or for craft, they need the cooperation of the fellow beings. So this way, their housing pattern is differing. It is purely because of the traditional occupation. As long as they continue with the traditional occupation, their traditional housing structure, settlement pattern will be like this. Or I can give you one more another interesting example, not from the tribal community, from the caste community. I will tell you, there is a weaving community in southern Tamil Nadu. There are so many weaving communities in the southern Tamil Nadu. The traditional weaving community, I am telling, those who weave, keep the loom in their house in the traditional way of making the dress and other things. If you go to their houses, inside the house, there is, in the drawing room itself, it is that traditional loom is fixed. You may not be having the space for the modern furnitures and all to put. So because that is their that is the what you call this drawing place is the place of yeah, this is traditional thing they are showing it. Yes. And here what I want to say, in what do they have in what they have inside the house is different. But normally the people who are doing traditional weaving, they will be tend to live in a, all will tend to live in the same street. They cannot afford to live differently, because their looms and other strings, everything, they have to dry it up in the street. Because they require the cooperation of the neighbors opposite house, so they will see to it all the community of that place living in the same street, so that they can nobody would complain. Otherwise, nowadays, if somebody is doing drying it up things in the street, all will oppose it. But if it people of same community, they will understand the situation, because today this fellow will be drying it up, the another day other fellow will be drying it up. So these are all, so even by having the people's cooperation, competition, way of living, everything is visible. Without even mentioning, you can understand it. So by observing itself, you can understand. Why? Because it is not a fun to have this type of structure or this type of structure. It is purposeful, it is utilitarian. It is utilitarian. In that utilitarian, there are other things. Other things are also added. Other things are added in the sense, sometimes symbolism, sometimes hierarchy, sometimes stratification. Everything is visible. See, like that, I also want to give you some other examples, especially the village. I do not know how many have the experience of seeing the rural villages. You just go to the any village, the each and every village is co-terminus with the social statuses. They will not be mentioning, there will not be any board to say this street belongs to high street, this street belongs to low caste, but it is physically organized in that way. See, invariably the low caste people or people's residences or settlements will be outside of the villages. You go to any village, it is like that. It has been arranged because there is some, because of that, no, they are to make them as not to mingle with the main activities of the dominant caste communities. So it is like outcast. So they have been settled outside so that they cannot mingle. But things are now changing, but I am telling only the traditional pattern. So if you are in a traditional village setting, if your particular communities residences or residential quarters in the center of the village, that community is highest in rank. In you normally what happen, in the traditional villages in the Kaveri Delta regions, it is the Brahmins Agraharam will be in the center of the village. Then around, because Brahmins are considered to be the highest in social ritual order. Then next to that, the other caste Hindus. Then next to the other streets. Then service caste. Then only the so-called low caste or lower caste. This way, it is the traditional housing pattern, traditional settlement pattern, which is coterminous with the social structure, social hierarchy. Okay, these are all structurally arranged in that way. So you should, without even asking anybody, you can understand these things. And again, it is not only simply because of the geographical conditions, these settlement patterns are arranged in that manner. So many sociological reasons, some economic reasons, or ritual reasons are there for that. And again, I was in my presentation, I was telling the behavior is influenced by the built environment. What are all the so important behaviors? The behaviors of accommodation, adaptation, expression, representation, production, reproduction, all are influenced by the built environment. Again, built environment, in a way, it is a physical thing, but it is also to be taken as a abstract concept also, because built environment, it is to describe the products of human building activity. And built environment refers to any physical alteration of the natural environment from earth to the cities through construction of the humans. So good, some of the good village structures are showing. I'm very happy that some of the diagram, the photos are shown, presented by the friends here. And what are all, see, individual structures as well as the group of structures, both are related to the built environment. See, for example, temples, houses, plaza, street, landmarks, shrines, windows, roofs, walls, floors, even chimneys are matters of built environment. You should pay attention to it. And see, nowadays, big monuments are related to the civilizations. It is seen as the symbols of civilizations. Now that is symbols of civilization. History is very much interested, but if you want to know the small communities, tribal communities, caste communities, rural communities, you want to know about the culture, then there is a new branch is also emerging. It is ethno-archaeology, community architecture. That is also emerging now. It is again related to the field of subfield of architectural anthropology. See, architect, as I told you, architectural anthropology, it is interrelations between man and the built environment. And why again I say that anthropology or cultural anthropology is related to architecture. You should know what do you mean by cultural anthropology. Let me once again define to you the what do you mean by cultural anthropology. Cultural anthropology, it is a branch of anthropology that studies the culture and lifestyle of people in different ecological and geographical locations. It studies human traditions, norms, arts, religions and beliefs, literature, customs, and science. It explains similarities and differences between different communities and societies. So, cross cultural comparisons also you can make. And very often, the architectural anthropology is interested in the vernacular architecture. What do you mean by vernacular architecture? Let me tell four characteristics of vernacular architecture. First of all, it is the vernacular architecture. First character is it is the product of lifestyle. It is the product of lifestyle. Second characteristics of the vernacular architecture is it is built by people who use it. It is built by the people who use it, not by the professional architects. That is, remember, most of the tribal communities, houses, dwellings are built by the people themselves. They don't employ any masons or they don't employ any particular specialists. And third characteristic of vernacular architecture is it construction and materials depend on local resources. Whatever is available in their locality, in the forest, in their living area, they are taking it and making use of it. And fourth character is buildings blend with the landscape. They don't spoil the landscape. Now, if nowadays, in the name of modern building, they sometimes, they spoil the landscape. They demolish the landscape and construct to the way they wanted. But the vernacular architecture, no, it will they do it with the blending of the with the blending of the landscape. That is very important. They don't spoil the landscape. And also there are just now I told you the characteristics of the vernacular architecture. Let me also say there are three different kinds of vernacular architecture, which is first is rural, second is domestic, third is industrial and commercial. That is also to be viewed. And as I again I repeat, architecture deals with the material aspects, but the anthropology deals with the social aspects. But architectural anthropology is blending, combining both. And because use of space is not only utilitarian, it is ideological, it is hierarchical, it is symbolic. All these things are there. Buildings shape us. That is the reason why some people say buildings shape us and we shape buildings, vice versa. House forms are linked to socio-cultural conditions, rural settlement pattern, all these things you have to understand from this perspective. And as I just told you, initially some of the pioneers who have in architecture field paid attention to anthropology. There is also another pioneer of anthropology who has paid attention to architecture is one Louis Henry Morgan. He studied in the way back in 18th century itself house and house lives of the American aborigines. And by studying, he investigates the influence of the social factors in the dwellings, socio-cultural symbolisms, cosmology, everything he has highlighted. So architecture can play a communicative role by expressing meaning through the built environment. And built structure, again, you should also know, if you just see built structure alone, it is end in itself. If you if you want to see building as end in itself, it is aesthetics. But if you see built structure as a means to gain further insight, then it is anthropology comes. Utilitarian, symbolic, meaning, all the things are coming in. So, like this, I can go on tell, but at least I want to give you some 10 minutes for any discussion, questions you can raise and get clarified. It is again, I want to insist that anthropology of architecture or architectural anthropology has very high scope in the field of architecture. Internationally, it is having high scope. Somehow in India also, not many works are carried out. I would request you, at least some of you, pay attention or do specialization in your project or whatever it is. And once again, I thank SRM and Madam Manju and HOD and the other dean, all the faculty, students, for giving me a good opportunity of sharing some of my views to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir, for your insightful information in the session. And we are open for the question and answer session. Participants can use the chat box. This will be addressed by the question session.
Sir, I have a question. Can I?
Yes, please.
Sir, you have come across any kind of an introvert community who is not socialized with any other community? They are living in the center of a village or anything like that. I
Yeah.
think if you can describe some peculiar kind of introvert community in Tirunelveli or
Yes,
somewhere
yes,
in Tamil
yes,
Nadu, it
yes.
will be good, sir.
Yes, there is a community called Kottai Pillaimar in South Tamil Nadu near Srivaikundam. They have a very mud wall. Inside the mud wall, some 200 families are living there for generation after generation, and they have inbreeding everything within them. The women are not allowed to go out. Even men don't go out frequently, only in limited manner. A few people will go on to get some essentials. What happened, due to that, that this is the settlement pattern, but ultimately it has affected their health and hygiene. The health and hygiene, in the sense, almost all of them suffer from the what to say, this a disease called I forgot the name of the hyper. You get a wound, but your blood doesn't get oozes, doesn't get coagulation. It would simply oozes out. This is a very dangerous disease. So, but now, to avoid, even if they have a small prick by a small pin, they are vulnerable to death. So, but now some cream has come. They, with that, they immediately, if they have any wound, they close it. Which means that closed living led to the one kind of inbreeding, and ultimately lead to the very bad disease also. So this is one example. But now slightly, not all have come out. Yeah, section of the family have come out, and out of it. But even after they come out also, they are not mingling with the rest of the community. Once again, they are creating their own compound wall. Earlier they were about 250 families, 200 families inside the mud wall, but some 20-25 families came out of it. But once they came out also, again, they, instead of living in different houses in different places, they all bought one single big plot and construct a big wall, compound wall. Inside they construct their houses. because their pattern, it is set in the that pattern, housing pattern is set, kept very strongly ingrained in the mind. Same thing they are continuing it, because it is so strong. People, though nowadays they are demolishing their old structures, housing structures, and they go for the modern things, certain things are still deeply ingrained in the minds.
Guys, if you have any questions, you can feel free to ask, sir, or you can post it in the chat box. Aditya,
Yes, ma'am. Uh,
is there any questions
Thank you, sir,
along with
for
you?
sparing your valuable time. No,
Any
ma'am.
questions in the chat box? Chat box. Okay, we can end it.
Thank you, sir, for sparing your valuable time with us and enriching us with the knowledge. I request our faculty, Manjuarjan and ma'am, to propose the vote of thanks.
We couldn't hear, madam.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you for the wonderful explanation of cultural anthropology in built environment. It is a big ocean. You have dropped a small drop into us to find out the droplets of waters and collect it and everything. So this will be very useful for the student because it's the first time they hearing the word called what is anthropology and how it is connected to the built environment. You very clearly explained the difference between the architecture and the anthropology and the connecting between that, and also importing knowledge to the ethnoarchaeology and various